In the middle of nowhere, in Shropshire, stands a 226-year-old iron aqueduct, and what if I told you this aqueduct was the cause for the most famous industrial aqueduct, the Pontcysyllte Aqueduct? But what does this have to do with Pontcysyllte? Well, for that, I had to start at the beginning. 1767, Lord Goiwa, brother-in-law of the Duke of Bridgewater, who had made the first industrial canal with the Bridgewater Canal just 6 years prior in 1761. He saw the success of the Duke's Canal and caught on early, building the Doddington Wood Canal in 1767, the first of a whole canal network in Telford, to link the number of limestone quarries and coal mines he had in the area. This 5.5-mile canal then started a chain reaction of canals in the area, the start of the new isolated canal network. But this wouldn't be a regular narrowboat network. Instead, they'd use tugboats, 20 foot long by 6 foot 4 wide. And instead of locks, they would use inclined planes, lifting the tubs up the hills. Soon followed the One Bridge and Ketley Canal in 1788, then the Shropshire Canal in 1791, finally the Shrewsbury Canal, which leads us to this aqueduct. In 1792, a man named George Young surveyed the route for a canal from Trench and Telford to Shrewsbury. So an Act of Parliament was obtained in 1793, raising 50k and an additional 20 if needed. Joseph Close was appointed chief engineer, known for his major project on the Thames and Severn Canal, which was building the Sappington Tunnel. But only 2 years later, he died in 1795. But he was succeeded by legendary Thomas Telford. You can tell what a legacy Thomas Telford left because he has a whole town named after him. But at this point, he wasn't so well known. The only other canal project he had worked on was the Ellesmere Canal, now the Llangollen. But at this point, the Ellesmere Canal had stagnated due to funds, and was originally supposed to link Ellesmere Port with Shrewsbury, but now this canal that Thomas Telford was working on would link up to Shrewsbury, and the Ellesmere Canal would no longer have any reason to link up to Shrewsbury, so it was never completed. And that's when we get to this aqueduct, in the middle of a field. And what does this have to do with the Pontcysyllte? Well, one of Telford's first tasks was to rebuild the Longden-on-Tern Aqueduct. Yes, rebuild. The original aqueduct was built by Clowes and was made of masonry, but had already been swept away by floods in February 1795. Telford's stonemason wanted him to reconstruct it in stone, but Telford had other ideas. Thanks to the heavy involvement in iron masters in Shrewsbury, Telford was convinced to try something new: cast iron. He made a 57-metre cast iron trough in sections in Ketley. It was then bolted together in 1795, and the aqueduct was the world's first large-scale iron navigable aqueduct, although it was narrowly predated by a smaller aqueduct, 13 metres, on the Derby Canal, built just months before. But the aqueduct no longer exists, so this is the last standing, oldest iron aqueduct in the world. And Telford learnt a big lesson from this experimental new material. It works. So when work resumed on the Ellesmere Canal, he began designing a new, much bigger aqueduct, the Pontcysyltte. But this was Longden-on-Terns on steroids. The aqueduct would be 307 metres long, at a height of 127 feet above the Dee Valley, with 18 masonry spans. But most importantly, the aqueduct would be made out of cast iron. Construction began in 1795. At the time, the plan was to link Ellesmere Port to Shrewsbury still, but the section between Ellesmere Port and Chirk would have been extremely expensive with huge engineering hurdles. So in 1798, plans were scrapped to complete the whole canal, and the canal had only reached Trevor Basin on the Ellesmere Port end and Western London Fields on the Shrewsbury end. But the feeder branch down to Llangollen was very important for the water source of the canal. And with that branch being on the other side of the valley, the decision was made to continue the construction of the Pontcysyltte Aqueduct. It was finally completed in 1805, 10 years later. It's likely that if it wasn't for the success of this iron aqueduct in the middle of a field, Pontcysyltte Aqueduct would never have been built in the way we know it today. This was the Pontcysyllte prototype. But why is there no canal here? Why is there no water? Well, the Telford and Shrewsbury Canal network would remain isolated for another 40 years until Telford began building the Birmingham and Liverpool Junction Canal, now known as the Shropshire Union. When the canal had reached Norbury Junction, Telford would return to its roots and would finally connect the network at Telford to the National Canal Network in 1835, when he built a 17-mile branch from Norbury to Walthamstow Junction. Passing through Newport with a total of 23 locks in 1835. Remarkably, this section through Newport is still in water to this day, and is easily the most preserved part of this canal. Unfortunately, Telford died just a year short of this at age 77. But this period was the Telford and Shrewsbury Canal most profitable period, but it was short-lived with the introduction of railways soon after. The canal slowly declined until 1936, when no traffic was reported reaching Shrewsbury, although small amounts of coal would still reach here at Langdon-on-Tern, just over 100 tons per year, and unfortunately the canals were formally abandoned in 1944. And then it was sold on to the British Waterways in 1963. Most of the route was sold off, sealing the fate of the historic canal, although in the 2000s the Shrewsbury and Newport Canal Trust was formed to promote the restoration. It's still a long way off, but one day boats may again cross over this beautiful aqueduct. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed. There's going to be lots more little documentaries like this, so please subscribe if you're interested in this sort of thing, because I really am, and I've got a lot of knowledge to share with you guys, and I absolutely love exploring these abandoned canals. So yeah, anyway, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.